All right, let's start with the Atlanta Falcons. 7.5 wins is what Atlanta has. Are you taking the over or the under?
Joe, I'm taking the under for the Atlanta Falcons. You have Michael Penix, a new face, leading the team. He hasn't proved himself as a starter in the league yet. I know he's, pretty much my age and still hasn't proved himself, but, last year they had Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins got benched. The Falcons were mediocre. Kirk Cousins is not a quarterback that really drags a team down. Kirk Cousins, in my view, is a quarterback that lets a team play up to their potential. Maybe no higher, but not really any less. So you may be seeing a Falcons team that are trying to put way too much weight on Bijan Robinson's shoulders. He's, as far as fantasy draft players, he's top 5. Everyone's expecting a huge breakout year from Bijan. I think we may be putting a little too much on him. Michael Penix is going to have to carry his weight and he's going to have to make plays. We haven't seen that yet. This NFC South division is going to be very unpredictable. So I think the safe bet is taking the under here.
I got to push back on you, Phil. I'm going to take the over. I think that they're going to win 8 ball games, and I think that they're going to win the division. They're finally going to break through. I am falling for the Kyle Pitts hype. I'm getting duped. I am willingly getting duped by this. I'm loving all the positive signs, hearing how they're working with him in training camp and they're trying to deploy him differently. And he's hopefully going to be more of a receiver than anything close to a tight end, because that is how he's going to succeed. But I like the aggressiveness of how they've tried to add so much athleticism to this defense. I think that circumstantially, there's a lot of opportunities to smoke the Panthers and the Saints for them to build up at least 3 wins there. The rest of their schedule allows for them to get to 9 wins minimum. I just need them to touch 8 or 9 wins and then go to the playoffs and win the NFC South. So I'm going to take the over. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, over 9.5 wins, super high. What do you think? Do you think that they can win 10 games?
I am going to take the over. I mean, the NFC South, it's unpredictable, but in a bad way. It's one of the weaker divisions in the league. In the Baker Mayfield era, the Bucs have been nothing but consistent. And they're bringing back most of the same core. They have those beasts on defense, Vita Vea, Winfield, Levante David. And on offense, they still got their 2 beasts at receiver. Here's some numbers: 40, 48, and 51. These are point totals that they put up last season. This is an electric offense. This is not Cleveland Baker Mayfield. This is Tampa Bay Baker Mayfield. 10 wins is going to be a lot for them, but in this division, there's going to be no stopping them. Give me the over.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we are completely opposite of each other today. I'm going to take the under. The thing that makes me feel uncomfortable about this Bucs team, they have had some really bad injury luck. And I look at the backbone of their production and their success has been their receivers, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. And I love the pick of Emeka Ibuka. It was really unexpected. And I think he's going to have a great rookie season. But I worry, as those guys are towards the end of their careers and they've been increasingly more and more banged up, I don't know if I can trust at the end of the season that they're all going to be available, that they're all going to be on the field. And you're already seeing guys like David Walker, who was a really promising, underrated rookie, go down with a season-ending ACL injury. I just think that there's a lot of duct tape that's kind of holding this team together. And if one piece of that duct tape falls off, I fear that they're just going to be one of these teams that only wins 9 or maybe even only 8 games. So I'm going to try to stay super cautious there. Let's jump over to the Carolina Panthers. Sorry, I lost it. All right, 3, 2, 1. Carolina Panthers, 6.5 wins. That feels surprisingly high for a pretty bad team last year. What are you taking?
Yeah, I'm surprised it's that high too, and I'm going to take the under. Going into last season, they were, they had a little promise. People like, maybe this team could go and make a run. Then they go and they got absolutely creamed by the Saints, who for the first 2 weeks of the season, people thought were a god team, but then it just turned out, oh no, they were just playing the Panthers to start off the season. But Bryce Young is a guy who's really never shown his promise. Like Penix, he had last year, and then he goes and gets benched. And he comes back, and, I think there was a narrative that, oh, he's kind of had a reawakening. he started again and he's gonna be better coming into this season. That's kind of what we saw the season before, and he didn't do well at all. Who do you think is going to be the offensive MVP of this team, Joe? You think it's going to be Xavier Legette, Chuba Hubbard, or a 60-year-old Adam Thielen? I can't really see any firepower getting started on this Panthers team. I'm not a believer, and I'm going to go under.
See, that's where you're wrong. The offensive MVP of this team is going to be Bryce Young. I think that Bryce Young showed us glimpses of what he can be when he had nothing around him. I think their offensive line started to gel a little bit more at the end of the season and showed some signs of promise. All I need is 7 wins for me to feel better about this Panthers team. I think that they're going to get there. I think that Ted McMillan is going to provide them a very reliable target for Bryce Young when things are breaking down, for someone he just knows is going to catch the football. But I think defensively, they've done some creative things. They moved on from Brian Burns, and they went after Nick Scourton and Princely Umamielen in this past draft. There's a chance that that defense ends up being surprisingly good and ends up being one of those teams that we're talking about, like, hey, this young core that they put together is one of the most underrated in the NFL. So I'm taking the over. I think that something has to be caught there. The New Orleans Saints, over 5.5. I know that this is your team. Where do you stand?
In a completely unbiased viewpoint, I'm going to go with the over. I think they're going to hit half of that mark in interdivisional games, in the 4 games between the Panthers and the Falcons. I think they have a good chance of getting 2 or 3. This is a team that has very experienced players and leaders. On the defensive side of the ball, you look at Cam Jordan and Demario Davis. They're old, but they're 2 of the best leaders and best all-time active defensive players right now in the NFL. You have Alvin Kamara, who maybe has one more good season left to give in New Orleans. Chris Olave is a top 10 talent in receiver in the NFL as far as I'm concerned. You have Rashid Shaheed, who got injured from all of last season. The Saints were one of the teams that were the most devastated with injuries last season. They got rid of Derek Carr. Obviously, the big question mark is the quarterback, but all of the other pieces really are there for them to make a deep run this season with that same core that they've had for the last 5, 6, 7 years. Give me the over.
Phil, I need you to not get mad at me. I'm taking the under. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You did this to my Giants, so this is
All
the
good.
retaliation, of course. No, in all seriousness, dude, I just don't know what the hell they're doing at quarterback, man. I just think that the options for them, not only are they bad, but it's like basement level bad. And I'm trying not to dig into the Saints this much, but all I see on Twitter are how Tyler Shuck is like a complete mess and things are not going well. Am I supposed to get excited about Jake Hayner or Spencer Rattler? I really think that there is something to be caught with this coaching staff. But if we're talking from like a roster standpoint, they have one of the weakest rosters because they've just missed after missed after missed on first round, second round draft picks. It just hasn't connected. I think that in 2 years' time, after they draft somebody in 2026, they will return to that level of consistent dominance potentially in the NFC South. But at this current moment, I think you just got to take it on the chin and realize that this is a little bit of a reset year.